My name is Alyssa Kensington. I'm 34 years old. Until recently, I genuinely believed Ryan Mercer was the man I would eventually marry. Ryan was 31. We had been together a little over 2 years. And for the last 6 months, he had been staying in my townhouse in Charlotte. The mortgage belonged to me. The utilities belonged to me. Every major bill connected to that house had my name on it. Ryan occasionally paid for groceries and covered a few subscriptions. But we had never combined finances. We talked about a future. We simply hadn't built one yet. Looking back now, I realize Ryan had a strange relationship with the word trust. He used it like leverage. If I worked late at the hospital network where I managed IT projects, he'd ask for pictures from my office. If I stopped by the gym after work, he'd ask for my location. If I put my phone face down while we watched television, he'd jokingly ask who I was hiding. At first, I thought he was insecure. I thought reassurance would solve everything, but reassurance never solved anything with Ryan. Because, with him, there was always another test waiting. The final one happened on a Saturday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen island reviewing my monthly budget. My quarterly bonus had arrived the previous day, and I transferred $8,500 into my savings account. Ryan was making coffee. He glanced over and casually asked, "What account is that?" "My savings account." "How much do you keep in there?" "Enough." I smiled when I answered. He didn't. He laughed like I was joking. Then, his entire expression changed. He placed his mug down and crossed his arms. "If we're serious," he said, "why am I treated like a stranger?" I explained that privacy and secrecy weren't the same thing. He stared at me for several seconds. Then, he delivered the sentence that destroyed our relationship. "If you trusted me, you'd add me to your account." I looked directly at him. "No." Just one word. "No." Ryan blinked in disbelief. He was accustomed to long arguments. He was used to pulling me into endless discussions where I defended my tone instead of my boundaries. But there wasn't much to debate. He wanted access. I refused. "Are you hiding something?" he asked. "No." "Then why keep me separate?" "Because trust and access are not the same thing." His face hardened. "If you really saw me in your future, there wouldn't be locked doors." I answered quietly. "My future husband and my current boyfriend are not the same legal category." That made him furious. He called me cold, secretive, controlling. He accused me of wanting all the benefits of a relationship without vulnerability. I almost laughed. Because Ryan treated boundaries like puzzles he needed to solve, so I asked one simple question. "If I demanded access to your account right now, would you give it to me?" He hesitated. Then he said, "That's different." Of course it was. Ryan grabbed his keys and announced he was staying with his friend Caleb. "Maybe some distance will help you decide whether you trust me enough to keep me in your life." I nodded. "Distance sounds fine." He stopped walking. I could actually see him waiting. Waiting for me to apologize. Waiting for me to stop him. I didn't. An hour later, my phone buzzed. "Ryan, I can't believe you chose money over me." "Me, I chose common sense over a test." "Ryan. So that's it?" "Meh, yes." Then came a long message about disappointment, family, and emotional intimacy. I responded with only one sentence. "I agree. Pick up the rest of your things tomorrow." The phone calls started immediately. I ignored everyone. Instead, I made a list. Change the garage code, separate subscriptions, call a locksmith, pack his belongings. By evening, everything was organized. His clothes, his shoes, his toiletries. I wasn't trying to punish him. I was trying to be clear. Before going to bed, I left a handwritten note on the entry table. "You asked for proof of trust." I offered honesty instead. "Your things are ready for pickup tomorrow." The next afternoon, Ryan arrived with Caleb, and one look at his face told me he'd spent the entire night rewriting the story in his head. Ryan stood in my doorway staring at the packed bags like he couldn't believe I had actually followed through. "You're seriously doing this?" he asked. "I'm seriously ending this," I replied. Caleb tried inserting himself into the conversation immediately. "Come on, Alyssa. This is a relationship. Mature people talk." I looked at him calmly. "I'm not dating you." Caleb, your opinion doesn't carry much weight here. Ryan cycled through every version of himself that I'd seen during our relationship. First sadness, then anger, then reason. He insisted he wasn't trying to steal from me. He said couples shared things. He claimed I was humiliating him by acting like he was some kind of criminal. But something inside me had shifted. I looked at him and said quietly, "If having access to my money mattered more to you than our relationship, I'm taking that seriously." That was when he snapped. "You are unbelievably paranoid." Maybe, but my instincts were screaming. Eventually, Ryan grabbed the last basket and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back. For a moment, I thought he might apologize. Instead, he simply stared at me as though waiting for one final, dramatic reversal. It never came. Monday morning, the locksmith replaced both the front door lock and the mailbox lock. Something in my gut told me Ryan wasn't finished. I wish I had been wrong. 3 days later, I was in the middle of a vendor meeting when my phone rang. It was the fraud department from my bank. The woman on the line asked whether I had written a personal check for $4,800 to Ryan Mercer. My stomach dropped. "No." She paused. "Did anyone besides you have access to your checkbook?" And suddenly I knew. I kept one paper checkbook inside my home office desk drawer. Ryan had lived with me for 6 months. He knew exactly where it was. The representative informed me that the attempted deposit had been submitted through an app linked to Ryan's phone number. Oddly enough, I didn't panic. I became very calm. Because at that moment, everything finally made sense. Ryan never wanted reassurance. He wanted access, and when I refused, he tried creating it himself. The memo line on the check image read, "Shared expenses." I almost laughed. Shared expenses. He occasionally bought groceries, paid for streaming subscriptions, covered dinner once in a while. Normal couple expenses. Nobody settles those things by forging a check for nearly $5,000. I left work immediately. At the bank, I signed fraud documents and ordered new account numbers. The branch manager, Denise, spoke carefully. "You need to file a police report." So I did. The officer asked whether Ryan had recently been inside my home, whether he had access to my checkbook, whether there had been financial disagreements. I handed him screenshots. The argument, his demand for account access, the breakup texts. He read everything. Then, he nodded once. "Keep every message from now on." By evening, Ryan had already begun recruiting people. My mother called first. Her tone told me she'd heard his version. Apparently, Ryan had told her I was hiding money and punishing him for wanting honesty. I explained everything, including the forged check. There was a long silence. Then Mom asked for screenshots. 10 minutes later, she texted, "I'm not speaking to him again until he explains that check." At 9 that night, an unknown number appeared on my phone. "Ryan, you're seriously reporting me over a misunderstanding?" I answered once. "Forgery isn't a misunderstanding." Then, I blocked the number. The following day, Caleb sent me a long paragraph. According to him, Ryan was emotional and simply trying to recover money he'd invested in our relationship. I replied, "He bought groceries. He tried taking $4,800. If you can't tell the difference, stop texting me." Friday evening brought something even stranger. My doorbell camera alerted me. Ryan was standing on my porch. He knocked several times. Then, he looked directly into the camera. "Alyssa, this is insane. You know I wasn't stealing. You owed me." Then he reached into his pocket and tried the old mailbox key. Except, the locksmith had already changed everything. He rattled the lock twice, actually looked offended, then walked away. Before going to sleep that night, I found another email from him. He wrote that I was destroying his ability to trust people. The irony was almost impressive. That weekend, I met my friend Nolan for a trail ride. After listening to the entire story, he shook his head. He doesn't want trust, Alyssa. He wants leverage. Those 4 words stayed with me, because deep down, I knew he was right. Strangely enough, while my personal life was falling apart, My professional life was improving. My director called me into her office. Apparently, I was being considered for senior project lead after resolving a difficult system rollout. So, while Ryan was standing outside my house trying old keys, my actual future was moving forward. But Ryan wasn't finished. Not even close. About 2 weeks after the forged check incident, security from my office building called upstairs. A man at the front desk asked me a question I already knew the answer to. "Ms. Kensington, there's a gentleman downstairs insisting he has urgent financial business with you." I closed my eyes. Ryan Mercer. Yes. I told them not to send him upstairs. Then I went down myself. And the moment I saw him standing in the lobby carrying a binder, I realized he had planned the entire performance. Ryan stood near the reception desk, wearing a blazer and holding a thick binder against his chest like he was preparing to argue a court case. When he saw me, he smiled. Not warmly, not lovingly, triumphantly. "I just want what's owed to me," he announced loudly enough for the front desk staff to hear. I stared at him. "You forged a check for $4,800. His expression tightened. "Because you left me no choice." That sentence immediately caught the attention of Human Resources. Ryan opened the binder dramatically. Inside were highlighted receipts, groceries, a concert weekend, gas purchases, brunch tabs, a decorative blanket he'd bought for my couch. One receipt was dated before we had even started dating. Another was for a birthday dinner I'd already reimbursed him for months earlier. It wasn't evidence. It was theater. Ryan launched into a speech about sacrifice and generosity. He claimed I had benefited from his kindness and abandoned him when he requested equality. I answered with one sentence. Equal footing does not mean unauthorized access to my bank account. Human Resources asked whether there was an active police report. Yes. Security escorted him outside. As the doors closed behind him, Ryan shouted one final sentence. "You're making me look crazy." I looked at him and answered quietly, "No. Your choices are doing that." That afternoon, I met with an attorney named Daniel Ross. He reviewed everything. The forged check, the unknown numbers, the doorbell footage, the workplace incident, the emails, the messages. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair. "People confuse intimacy with entitlement all the time," he said. "Courtrooms don't." He instructed me to freeze my credit, send a formal cease and desist letter, and stop communicating with anyone acting on Ryan's behalf. So we sent the letter. Ryan responded by posting vague social media messages about surviving financial abuse. A mutual friend named Tessa contacted me asking whether I had actually stolen money from Ryan. Instead of arguing, I sent screenshots, his demand for account access, his text asking whether I was really reporting him over a misunderstanding. Several minutes later, Tessa replied, "Oh." Then came something I never expected. Ryan's older sister called me, "Vanessa Mercer." Honestly, I almost ignored the call. By then, I was exhausted by anyone connected to him. But something about her voice sounded different. "I'm not calling to defend him," she said immediately. "I've heard 3 versions of the story today. Usually the truth is the one making Ryan the angriest." I gave her the short version. She became very quiet. Then she sighed. "This isn't the first time he's called something a trust test." I blinked. "What?" Vanessa sounded embarrassed. "His ex-girlfriend Madison went through something similar. Different details. Same pattern. Ryan always pushed boundaries, and then accused people of not loving him enough." That revelation sent chills through me, because suddenly, I understood. I wasn't witnessing new behavior. I was witnessing an old cycle. Vanessa apologized for the friends Ryan had recruited, and gave me one important warning. "He still has copies of some of your mail." Immediately after hanging up, I permanently froze my credit. A few days later, I thought things had finally calmed down. I was wrong. Sunday evening, I was assembling a bookshelf in my living room when my camera sent another notification. Ryan. Again. This time he carried a gift bag and a framed photograph from our trip to Charleston. He looked like a man arriving for a romantic movie ending. I didn't open the door. He kept knocking. Then he held the picture up toward the camera. "Alyssa, this isn't who we are." he said. I only pushed because I wanted security. I pressed the speaker button. Leave. He froze. Then his voice changed. Soft. Wounded. Alyssa. I brought back your watch. I'm trying here. Leave it on the mat and go. He slowly placed the bag down. Then came the sentence that perfectly summarized our entire relationship. If I leave, you're proving you never loved me. There it was. Every boundary I created automatically became proof that I was defective. I called the non-emergency police number. While I waited, Ryan sat down on the porch swing, like he still lived there. When the officer arrived, I recognized him immediately. He recognized our names. 2. I explained that Ryan had already received a cease and desist letter and had repeatedly been told not to contact me. Ryan claimed he was only returning personal belongings as a peace offering. The officer pointed toward the watch, resting on the doormat. Mission accomplished. Then he looked at Ryan. Time to go. For the first time since the breakup, I saw genuine fear flash across Ryan's face. Not sadness, not heartbreak. Fear. Because reality was finally beginning to catch up with him. 2 days later, Daniel Ross filed paperwork requesting a temporary protective order. At that point, I no longer wanted explanations. I no longer wanted apologies. I wanted distance, silence, peace. And 6 weeks after the kitchen conversation that ended everything, we finally walked into court. 6 weeks earlier, everything had started with a cup of coffee and one sentence. If you trusted me, you'd add me to your account. Now, Ryan and I were standing inside a courtroom. He arrived wearing a cream-colored suit jacket, and the expression of someone rehearsing innocence. For a brief second, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked polished, calm, respectable, but appearances had stopped meaning anything to me. Daniel Ross arrived carrying a folder so thick it looked heavy. Inside was everything. The breakup texts, the screenshot of Ryan demanding account access, the forged check image with shared expenses written on the memo line, the fraud affidavit, the police report, the office security statement, the cease and desist letter, the doorbell footage, the mailbox incident, the porch incident, the blocked numbers, everything. Ryan's attorney tried presenting the entire situation as an emotional breakup, mixed with financial confusion. He claimed Ryan had simply made poor decisions while attempting to recover what he believed he had contributed to the household. According to him, Ryan wanted closure, not intimidation. Daniel stood. Then he handed the judge one screenshot. Ryan's words, "If you trusted me, you'd add me to your account." Immediately below it sat my answer. No. One word. Daniel calmly walked through the timeline. Relationship ends. Ryan removes his belongings. 3 days later, he attempts to deposit a forged check for $4,800. After being reported, he contacts my mother, my friends, my workplace, my property, my mailbox. After receiving a cease and desist letter, he returns to my home and refuses to leave. The courtroom became very quiet. Then the judge looked directly at Ryan. The question she asked was almost painfully simple. Did Ms. Kensington ever authorize you to write or deposit a check from her account? Ryan attempted a long explanation. He talked about contributions, fairness, emotions, misunderstandings. The judge interrupted him. Did she authorize it? Silence. Finally, he answered, no. And that was the end. The temporary order became a full 1-year protective order. No contact, no appearing at my home, no appearing at my workplace, no third parties, only attorneys. According to Daniel, Ryan suddenly became extremely interested in repayment once legal consequences stopped feeling theoretical. Funny how that works. Outside the courthouse, my mother wrapped her arms around me. I really liked him, she admitted softly, until he confused access with love. I hugged her back. So did I. After the hearing, life became quiet. Wonderfully quiet. Tessa apologized for believing Ryan's version. Vanessa thanked me for remaining calmer than her brother had. Caleb disappeared completely. Good. 8 weeks later, I received the promotion. Senior project lead. Better salary. Larger responsibilities. A future that belonged entirely to me. I used part of the raise to replace the ugly living room furniture I'd hated for years. When the new chairs arrived, I sat in my living room and realized something strange. The house felt different. Not because Ryan was gone, because the tension was gone. No more tests. No more accusations disguised as needs. No more proving I wasn't hiding something every time I protected a private corner of my life. About a month after the hearing, Nolan and his wife invited me to a backyard cookout. That's where I met Ethan Walker, a physical therapist. Funny without trying too hard, kind in quiet ways. The first time he visited my house, he stood beside the coffee table, holding his drink, and asked, "Can I set this here?" I almost laughed. Permission. Such a tiny thing. Yet, after everything I'd experienced, it felt enormous. We've been taking things slowly, and that's exactly how I wanted it. Sometimes, people still ask whether Ryan simply needed reassurance. No, reassurance has an ending. Control doesn't. If I had given him access to my account, there would have been another test after that. Then another. My phone. My email. My retirement savings. My house. People who weaponize trust never stop after one unlocked door. Trust is not handing someone your wallet because they're offended. Trust is not surrendering boundaries to avoid accusations. Trust is earned. Mutual. And honestly, in healthy relationships, trust is wonderfully boring. It looks like consistency. It sounds like peace. It does not forge checks. So that's where the story ended. One demand. One word. A lot of chaos in between. And finally, a peaceful home again. For the first time in a very long time, I could sit in my own living room and breathe. Not because I had won, but because I no longer had to defend my right to say no